Okay, cool. Oops. All right. Well, thank you so much, you guys, for being here on a Monday and wanting to get better. So today I have you guys for about 30 to 40 minutes today. So I'm going to run through these slides and then there will be a Q&A afterwards if you guys have any questions at all. So I put this together because I know what you're dealing with out there. I know what we're all dealing with out there. And my goal today is simple, and that's just to equip you with a framework, the information, and the data to help move buyers forward. Because I'm sure all of us could use one more deal per month. You know what I'm saying? So make sure you stay to the end. I'm going to give you guys all the free stuff that I use and that I go through in this presentation. We'll make sure you stay till the end. I'll make sure you get all that. And if you guys have any questions at all, again, there will be a Q&A afterwards. All right, let's get started. So again, presentations, I want to weight the information gap costing you deals. All right, so what if I told you that most buyers aren't saying no? I know a lot of you have feel like, oh, he's crazy. Some buyers are saying no, but most of them are saying not yet. How many of you guys have heard one of these in the past 30 days? I'm waiting for rates to come down. I'm waiting for the market to correct. I think we're heading into a recession. My parents told me to wait. TikTok real estate guru said it's the bad time to buy. Renting's better than buying. Pretty much everybody heard, right? And I think the mistake that a lot of people are making right now is assuming that buyers don't have any motivation. I don't think that's true. At least not all of them. I think the problem that we're dealing with right now is a clarity problem. Every day they're hearing something different from TikTok, CNNBC, CNN, social media, friends, coworkers. Everybody's coming at them with different information. And when everybody gets overwhelmed and bombarded with information, what do? Well, they just do anything because they have the trouble deciding who they should listen to. So when somebody says, I want to wait, what they're really saying is, I don't have enough information to move forward yet. And if we can understand that gap and answer it with the right information, the right data, the right conversations, the right strategy, that's going to change everything. And now the next time that you hear, I want to wait, you're going to know exactly what to say. You're going to know exactly what to show them. You're going to know exactly how to make a decision based off of facts instead of fear. So let me make sure. And if I stop randomly, I'm letting people in because sometimes it doesn't always let me know. All right, cool. All right, so I believe our job is not to convince buyers. I know a lot of times it seems like you have to convince people to do certain things, but it's to diagnose what's actually causing them to wait. Think about a doctor for a second. Think about if you went into a doctor's office and your chest was hurting. You're like, my chest hurts. Can you figure out what's wrong with me, doc? And the doctor looked at you and they said, well, that sounds serious. Good luck. You'd be like, whoa, like, like ask me questions, run tests on me, figure out what's wrong, and then explain to me how we can move forward. That is our role. Because not every buyer that says, I want to wait, is waiting for the same reason. You have financial waiters who are waiting on better rates, better pricing, affordability. You have fear waiters who are worried about recessions or things that are kind of going on with the economy. You have overwhelmed buyers that hear every little thing that they hear on TikTok and Instagram, and they decide to not do anything. And then you just have your lifestyle waiters who maybe they just got a divorce, maybe they just got a new job, maybe they just got a kid. So not everybody's worrying about the same thing. And this matters because when you prescribe the right solution, then you're going to know exactly what you're dealing with and you're going to know exactly what to pull up. So write this down. If you don't write down anything else, write this down. What would need to happen for you to feel comfortable moving forward? That question is the number one question that should be in all, whenever you're talking to a buyer, whenever you're talking to in a listing presentation. What would need to happen for you to feel comfortable moving forward? One question. Because most buyers are going to tell you exactly what's holding them back if you create enough space for them to be honest. Again, what would need to happen for you to feel comfortable moving forward? And then once you've identified what's really causing them to wait, here's how I approach all these conversations. Three steps, every conversation, every objection. I call it the VRF method. I know it's not a clever name. Maybe I'll think of a clever name afterwards. So validate what they're feeling. Again, validate what they're feeling. Mr. and Mrs. Klein, I totally understand. Let me, 1 second. So I have to let somebody in, complete. All right, cool. All right, VRF method again, not a very clever name. I'll think of a better name after it. Validate what they're feeling. See where they are. Meet them where they're at. Mr. and Mrs. Clown, I totally understand. That's such a fair point. Then you're going to reframe. R, you're going to reframe with data and facts. And then F stands for forward. How are we going to move this buyer forward? How are we going to move on to the next step? I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because now we're kind of getting into a sales thing. So, but the data is the point. So validate, reframe, forward. And what I'm about to show you is all the exact charts and conversations that I use every single week with my buyers, and you're going to get all of this. So let's get into it. I'm waiting for rates to drop. So let me show you exactly how this plays out word for word. So your buyer says, we're just going to wait until rates come down. Mr. and Mr. Client, honestly, that's one of the most common things I'm hearing right now, and it makes complete sense. Nobody wants to lock in a higher rate and pay extra than what is needed, and I totally get that. But you mind if I show you something that actually surprised me when I first saw it? And I think the math works a little differently than what most people realize. So when rates drop, and they will, look what happens to buyer demand. So every buyer who waits, as a lot of buyers wait, that they rush back into the market once they hear that rates drop. And when that does, it pushes up home prices. So yes, you might get a better rate, but you're paying more for the house because a higher purchase price means a more expensive insurance, more expensive property taxes. So you can always pay more and refinance the rate. Like you can always refinance a rate, but you cannot refinance the price of the home. And as you guys can see on this graph, every time there's a dip in rates, rates are the red, buyer demand is the light pink. Rates drop, buyer demand goes up. Rates go up, buyer demand goes down. Rates drop, buyer demand goes up. Rates go up, buyer demand goes down. And as you can see, the most recent one where rates dropped in November of last year, rates dropped, buyer demand went up. And now, after you've explained this and they actually see what's going on, then you make it personal. Mr. and Mr. Buyer, do you mind if I run your exact numbers really quick? Not another hypothetical about me telling you that demand goes up and this happens right, but your specific price in your area. I want to show you what waiting 12 months might actually cost you. So on this specific scenario, on a $1.3 million home, waiting a year costs $65,000. So the question really isn't about waiting for the rate anymore. It's about whether waiting actually saves you money. And the math says it doesn't. So anyone can tell a buyer again, waiting is going to cost you, waiting is going to cost you. That's just another opinion. They've heard that and they'll nod, and then they'll just keep going and they'll just keep waiting. But when you're sitting across that client and they see their number, their price range, their zip code, and it says waiting is going to cost them $65,000 for the exact same house, that's a completely different conversation. And that's not you trying to sell them, but that's the math telling them. So on this specific scenario, as you can see the payment, 10,297, and waiting 12 months, their payment actually increases 10,439 due to appreciation. And again, this specific scenario was an actual loan I was working on, and I pulled it up for a client. So what if there was a recession? What if there was a recession? This is everywhere right now. Most real estate professionals might not know what happens if a recession did occur. So your buyer, with everything going on, we're just worried that a recession might come, and we don't want to buy and watch everything fall apart like 10,008. So again, Mr. Client, that's completely fine. The economy does feel uncertain, and I'd rather you make this decision that's going to affect your future and your family with the full information rather from fear. Do you mind if I show you what actually happens to real estate during a recession and in the past recessions? Sorry, let me. So in every recession since 1971, okay, mortgage rates dropped significantly. So from 16% to 11.75%, 10% to 9, 18% to 13%, and so forth. And then the most recent one, 3.75% to 2.75% during COVID. So the thing that you're afraid of might be the best thing to happen for a buyer. And then on the other side, we do know that once rates drop, housing prices increases. So during the last five recessions, last five out of six recessions, the only exception was in 2008, and that recession was caused by the housing industry due to fraudulent lending, and things are way different from that time period. So this is not today's market. So for the past 5 to 6 recessions, housing prices have actually increased. So you get a better rate and prices historically don't fall. So the people that bought into recessions actually made out very well. See, you see what we did at that moment? You completely took the fear out of the unknown of a recession. And again, I'm going to give you guys all these charts and graphs, so you guys don't need to take pictures of them. I'll make sure I email them to you afterwards. The world feels a little unstable. And when I hear this, I believe this isn't necessarily about real estate itself, but it's just about uncertainty. And this goes hand in hand with the recession talk. And I do have a real-time update for you as well. The U.S. and Iran have reached an interim agreement to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. So hopefully, they're set to sign their accord on Friday. So hopefully that should help interest rates and kind of ease that what's kind of going on with the world as far as the war right now. So hopefully that gets done. I know they've been going back and forth for the past month, so hopefully that becomes official. But when you do hear this, you have to meet them where they are. And again, Mr. and Mrs. Client, I understand and I feel you that the world does feel differing. And honestly, that makes a ton of sense. But can I show you something that might put things in perspective and that you might be surprised by? And if you if you've been a part of my presentations before or trainings, you know that I have shown this graph before. So as you can see, home prices in real estate have gone up 90% of the time. And this is since 1941. So, Mr. and Mrs. Client, this record includes World War II, Korea, Vietnam, the Cold War, the Cuban Missile Crisis, 9/11, the 2008 financial crisis, and a global pandemic, the most recent one. So, when you say that the world feels unstable, you're completely right. It can feel unstable. But the world has always been unstable in certain parts of its history. And real estate has survived and gone up anyway. So again, you're not telling them that the world isn't scary or there's not things going on. You're telling them that real estate has survived every single thing the world has thrown on it. And that's over 80 years of data. So Mr. Klein, again, I totally understand, but a fixed mortgage is one of the most stable things you can have in an uncertain world. Renting is smarter right now. I know we've probably heard this a million times in the past. How long, however long we've all been in the industry, and this one gets me every time because you kind of know how it happened. You know, someone told them this, a friend, they maybe read it in an article, maybe somebody they follow has been preaching this, and now they believe it, and the more you say it, the more they push back. So instead of fighting with them, just say, you know what? I've heard that a lot lately too. And in some cases, it actually makes a complete ton of sense to rent. Maybe that client doesn't have an emergency fund. Maybe they don't have a strong savings. Maybe they're just not where they want to be in as far as their job goes, or whatever the case may be. Maybe they're in a transition period. Then you're going to say, does any of that relate to you? And obviously, if they say yes, then maybe buying might not be the right decision for them right now. But if they say no, you'd be like, well, how about this? What if we run your numbers? Because I think the math might surprise you. Do you mind if I show you something really quick? And then they'd say, yeah, yeah, sure, of course, you can show me something. So every rent payment does one thing, and it disappears once you pay it, and you never see it again. No equity, there's no asset, there is nothing to show for it. And rent goes up every year. And in this example, I used a 3.2 increase annually. On the other side, every mortgage payment does three things for you at the same time. The home appreciates, your balance gets paid, and you capture tax benefits. So on this specific scenario, again, this is for an actual loan I was working on. You have a $3,000 rent, $3,000 a month for rent over 7 years. It's $282,000 out of pocket. Zero equity, zero asset. Meanwhile, on the other side, you have someone who bought a $700,000 home in this same zip code, sitting on a net gain of $143,000. So again, anybody can tell a buyer that renting is well, throwing away money. But all buyers have heard that. They say it's a throwing away money. But when you put their rent and their actual price range and wherever they want to buy the area into a calculator and show them exactly what that decision is costing them in real dollars, they can't unsee it. It's not just an opinion anymore. Let me move this out the way. Oops. Sorry about that. And again, I'm going to show you this is just so we subscribe to MBS. This gives us the access to all this good information and all these charts. This is a buy versus rent comparison. I use this in every single one of my presentations. All right, it's too expensive. Now this one, this one hits a little differently because they're not wrong. It is expensive. Okay. So again, when your buyer says, man, it's too expensive, prices are crazy right now. Mr. and Mrs. Client, you're completely right. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that homes are cheap right now because they're not. However, that's a completely fair observation. But can I show you something that would probably put the price as far as the context that may help you feel a little bit differently about this? Can I show you something that maybe reframes what expensive actually is? Sure, sure. So the U.S., again, the 150, the top economists in the U.S. were surveyed. They took a survey as far as the appreciation for the next 5 years. So 12,500 more for this year. So 2.5% for this year on appreciation, and then 14% for the next 5 years. So again, I'm not saying things aren't that things are cheap right now or things aren't expensive. But again, when you're saying that the top 150 economists forecast where prices are going, it's not us, it's not lenders, it's not realtors. They're all aligned economists on the 14,000% appreciation. So again, it's going to cost you more if you wait. But when you put that forecast and someone's actual purchase price, then buyers don't understand that they don't know that things aren't going down, and that's not their fault. And our job is to close that gap on what's happening. Oops. So again, when things are easy, almost, when things are easy and things are flowing, when rates are low and buyers are certain and business is booming, this job is pretty straightforward. But when buyers are uncertain and they're hearing tens of different opinions and they're worried about making the wrong decision, that's when your value is going to actually show up. Think about everything we covered today. What buyers are trying to do is they're just trying to protect themselves. They're trying to make a good decision for themselves and their family. And they're looking for somebody to trust through all this noise that they're hearing. And that's where you come in. Not as a salesperson, not as somebody trying to sell them on something, but somebody that they can trust, somebody, an expert in this field who can help them make sense of everything what's going on. Again, when people bought in 2008, things were uncertain. When people bought in 2020, things were very uncertain. So, but one thing that those families all did is they had somebody in their corner who they could trust, letting them know what's going to happen, what they can expect. Again, we don't need to have all the answers in this field. And I think that's one of the things that I've learned over time. You're not going to have every single answer. But one, you got to know how to find that answer. And you have to be able to help people make informed decisions with the information available today. Mouth is dry. All right. So this was just So everything, again, everything we covered today, the cost of waiting, the recession data, the buy versus rent, all that stuff, I just don't teach that stuff. I use it every single one of my pre-purchase consultations every time I run with my buyers. We just don't send generic pre-approval letters. We have a real strategy session where we sit down, pull up all their information, address all their fears that they told us beforehand on the initial conversation. And we build them a plan that gives them the confidence to move forward. So again, if we ever have the opportunity to work together, I will do this for every one of your clients as well. The data, the analysis, the conversations, all of it. And that's what turns a not yet into a signed contract. So if you have buyers sitting on the fence, then this might help them get them moving. Here is my information. If you guys want to QR code that, and then I will head into the closing. All right, so this is what I'm going to leave you with. You're going to have the data, you're going to have the scripts, you're going to have the slides, but you have to use it. None of what we went over matters if you do not use it. It doesn't matter how many webinars you attend, doesn't matter how many webinars you host, doesn't matter how many events that you go to. You have to take action today. Your clients need your expertise. They need your insight. They need the information that you have, and they need you to show up for them more, now more than ever. So Thank you guys for being here.